If you were born when the previous generation Toyota Tundra came out, you would be in high school. As you would expect, that truck became less and less competitive over the years, to the point where you'd really just buy one if you wanted a reliable V8 powered truck, or you were loyal to the Toyota brand and you needed a pickup. But for the all-new 2022 Tundra, Toyota's looking to take the truck from just the reliable option in the class to the best option in the class. So today I'm going to try to find out if Toyota was able to follow through. If you enjoy detailed, fun reviews on cars from every category, new and old, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. That way I can make this my long-term career and you get quality automotive content. Thank you. Now back to the video. The new front end of the Toyota Tundra was meant to put it into the new decade. I think it just comes off a bit polarizing. And while I like the overall styling of the truck, the front has me boggled. I won't talk too much about how it looks because this is all subjective, so let me know what you guys think, but I do find a couple things hilarious. Toyota made this massive grille here and then was like, wait, guys, does it need any extra cooling? No? Oh. And then proceeded to slap a couple functional vents under the headlights because they could. Meanwhile, the cool looking accessory skid plate here is hidden away. Real quick, I would like to thank the generous people at Royal South Toyota in Bloomington, Indiana for loaning me 2 Tundras to make this review. If you're looking for a new Toyota, check them out. Another thing, Toyota stamped the TRD badge and Tundra name on the front grille. Because that means if someone's looking at the truck, whether they are at the front, side, or rear of it, they'll know exactly what it is. And one of the first things I should mention is that you have a whole slew of different trims that can in some cases really change the whole look of the truck. You're gonna have the SR, which is just the base truck. Then you're going to have the SR5, which has some added convenience features, but then it will also provide a TRD off-road package or a TRD sport package like what I have here. Then you'll have the Limited, which can also be outfitted in a TRD off-road spec, but not the Sport. On top of that premium trim, you're going to have the even more premium Platinum, and then you'll have the 1794, which is basically a Texas-style Platinum, and then the TRD Pro with the beefy suspension and the big light bar up front, which is exclusive to that model. But that truck is not out yet. I'd expect the price to be around 60 grand to start after the $1,700 destination, which is typical now. Additionally, one cool thing about the 1794 trim is that you can put the TRD off-road package on it that will beef up the suspension and add a rear locking differential, among other things. I've been hearing that the new Tundra is much more expensive than other trucks, but this isn't really true. You just can't get one as base as the F-150 or Silverado. Spec both an F-150 XL and a Tundra SR with 4-wheel drive and a double cab, they will both come out to 41 grand. The only time where this starts to lose in value compared to the other trucks is when you really start laying on the options. The weird thing is that you can bring a SR5 trim like I have here to 56 grand, since you can add many luxury features and the TRD packages. And just announced is the new Capstone trim, which specs out the Tundra. Has its own visual cues like 22-inch rims, along with electronic bed step and side steps, and a couple other special features. I would expect that to be at least in the upper 60s to start after destination, but you still get plenty of features on your more normie trucks. The integrated fog lights are pretty cool and they come on most Tundras. Additionally, you'll have standard LED headlights, but LED daytime running lights are available. Around the side of the Toyota Tundra, again, you're going to have various different looks that you can spec here, whether you want a more sporty appearance with painted fenders or you want the more black body cladding look, they're all available. You'll have 18-inch steel wheels as standard on the SR, and then you're going to have various alloys ranging from that 18-inch size. Now the TRD package is more than just wheels though. You actually have a slightly lower ride height and a different suspension, with the opposite going for the TRD off-road models. There's also no standard cab. You're just going to get the extended cab or the CrewMax, which is what I have here, and it provides an egregious amount of space in the back seat. However, with this outfit, you're limited to either a 5.5-foot bed or a 6.5-foot bed. with smaller cab buyers being able to opt for an 8-foot bed. New is a composite bed like the Tacoma. This one has a grippy spray liner option. It's supposed to be ultra durable, and you get Toyota's practical bed rail system. Payload capacity isn't particularly impressive, with most trims around 1,700 to 1,800 pounds. Maximum capacity comes out to around 1,900, which is fine for how most will use it, but it is technically behind the competition. There's no special tailgate option like the big three will have, but limited trim and up will have a bump switch in the driver's side taillight that will drop the tailgate. You might not be able to get a step built into the tailgate, but you can accessorize a step that can drop and lift when you need it. Standard on Platinum and up, available elsewhere, is a 400 watt outlet, which is fine, but a little disappointing to the wattage that an F-150 can provide, or even that Sienna I reviewed last year with a 1500 watt inverter. At least you have a proximity unlock and lock as standard, plus a 360 camera is available on the SR5 and Limited, standard on Platinum and up. The exterior of the Tundra may be very macho, but I'm glad to report that the inside is inviting and vastly improved over the previous generation. The interior of the Toyota Tundra feels durable, looks fresh, and saw a big jump in terms of modern features, and it's still a pretty practical cabin. Now obviously this is a full-size truck. It's going to be huge. So space here is no problem. From numerous cup holders to various cubbies that come in different sizes, you can store just about anything in the Tundra interior. I also really like the phone holders up front that also turn into a wireless charger in higher trims. The dashboard is very vertical and sits up high. It makes for a smaller windshield than I would say is ideal. They break up the interior with these kind of aluminum or gunmetal looking plastics that don't look too cheap, but then there is, a lot of black plastic here that does look more bargain bin. But I'm glad to see that they at least put soft touch materials where your elbows rest, and also on the door sill, which makes it look more premium. One place where I'm not too happy to see that plastic trim is on the steering wheel. It's kind of put where, I would rest my hands on the highway, and it's just a little less soft than if they just upholstered the whole thing consistently. While the steering wheel is the same and the SR5 has an aesthetically pleasing cabin, if you step up to the Limited, there's an improvement in materials, so I would start there if you want a more upscale cabin. And the quality of the materials and accents improve as you step up further in the trim ladder. But this SR5 is still quite nice too, it just doesn't feel like 60 grand. All Tundras come with Toyota's trademark power rear window. I think Toyota chose probably the worst name for an interior that I've seen in quite some time. So if you go with the base or the SR5, you'll get cloth, with the exception being this TRD Sport Premium, which these have Softex seats. They're 8-way adjustable versus the base SR. Then you'll have the Limited, which will come with a 10-way adjustable power seat versus the Platinum and the 1794, which get leather. And you're also going to get special Softex for the TRD Pro, which all Softex is a leather alternative. And it's a nice material, don't get me wrong, but the 1794, you can choose a brown interior or you can opt for rich cream. Which, why do we need to know the texture? I mean, you don't tell us for Boulder in the SR5 trim that it's jagged or smooth, but you need to tell us that it's rich cream? GUI interiors aside, you do have a modest improvement in tech. Standard, you're gonna have an 8-inch touchscreen here on the SR and SR5, but if you get the Limited, you're gonna have a 14-inch screen. However, this UI might look better than the previous generation, but the functionality of it still isn't all there. It kind of feels more like an aftermarket system. I think Ford Sync and Chrysler's Uconnect are better, mainly because it's less user-friendly than art instructions. Plus, the lack of a tune knob is frustrating. At least you do have a pleasant volume knob. With either screen, it's much more responsive than before. If you get the larger unit, it doesn't really display many more things. It just makes the icons ridiculously large. It seems to get the job done. It comes with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto on every trim, so I don't have too much issue with it. Another thing that you get on every trim is a proxy key, so you do have push button start here as standard. You also have 8 speakers in the base models, with a JBL system standard on the Platinum, 1794, and TRD Pro. The 8 speakers in my tester were good for me so long as I didn't have the volume too high. And I commend Toyota for giving the driver and passenger lumbar adjustment along with heated and ventilated seats as standard on the Limited. When it comes to seat comfort, these 8-way adjustable seats, they're adequate and provide enough support, but I do wish I could get more for my thighs. And they're also just not all that well contoured, and they're a little bit stiff. I mean, they're far from uncomfortable, but they won't really coddle you. Which, another cool thing to add, if you get the Platinum or 1794, you'll have heated and ventilated front and rear seats. One thing I'm really happy to see is all these physical toggle switches for the climate control. It's really easy to use. It's more satisfying than a lot of buttons and dials, and much better than a touchscreen integrated system. Plus, if you stick with the SR or SR5, you'll just have a 4.2-inch multifunction display here, whereas the upper trims will have a full 12.3-inch digital display for everything. Now, before we dive into the back seat, I would like to note you can get a panoramic sunroof on this thing, which is cool for a truck. And these door handles look very cheap and similar to previous year Tundras. Just like a lot of other big cab trucks, you have more than enough legroom back here, even though I am 6'3". Headroom is also passable. When it comes to materials, I mean, they're not as good as what's up front. You're not gonna have the same soft touch at the windows, but you at least still have a lot of storage. You have the option for a wall outlet back here. And CrewMax buyers do have rear vents as standard. Plus, you have a fairly large amount of storage underneath the seats. So the interior and the exterior of the 2022 Tundra are a pretty big departure from the previous generation, except hands down, Toyota made the most notable changes for the 22 Tundra under the hood and on the road. As much as I did actually appreciate the previous generation, this is through and through a much better truck. So all trucks will have a 3.5 liter twin turbo V6. The base SR models will have a 348 horsepower variant of this engine. If you step up to at least the SR5, the truck will then make 389 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. That's what we have here today. There's also an iForce Max, this, again, the same engine, however, then it incorporates a hybrid system that then bumps things up to 583 pound-feet of torque. Now, technically, this is the powertrain that can tow the most. 12,000 pounds is the max rating. And some may point out that a truck like the F-150 can tow 14,000, but that's only in specific guises. A majority of Tundras actually tow around 11,000, more than what many F-150s can pull. You have to get the right final drive ratio in the F-150 to best that number. Unfortunately, the iForce Max is not available until the spring, which is why the TRD Pro and new Capstone trim, which only come with the iForce Max, are not going to be delivered anytime soon. We also don't have gas mileage ratings for that engine, but the regular truck is efficient considering its capabilities. iForce Max will be optional in the Limited, Platinum, and 1794. Before we hoon the Tundra, this 3.5 liter is technically a 3.4 liter. It's 3,445 cc's. In other words, even Toyota rounds up. So you might see this referred to as both, and that's why. All Tundras will have power hit the road through a 10.5 speed automatic. The previous Tundra hit 60 in 6.6 seconds in ideal conditions with motor trend. Let's see what the new Tundra with twin turbos and a 10-speed can do in the real world. For this test, we're going to shut off traction control. We're going to have it in its sport mode, and we're also going to shut off the climate control. I'll put it in the sport mode for the transmission as well. And just like previous year vehicles, when you slap the shifter over to the side, you'll get a number here on the dashboard, and that's the highest gear that it's going to be willing to go into. So say you're towing and you want it to top out in 8th gear. It'll shift up and down like normal until you get to that point, or you can put it in S and drop down to the lowest gears and shift through them yourself if you would like. So I kind of had to modulate the throttle there a little bit to keep that wheel spin down. It feels silly quick for a truck, but this is actually average now. Still, 6.3 seconds is more than respectable for this class, and I easily could have knocked some time off of that 0 to 60 with a couple more runs. But that's not the point of the truck. Highway response is good too. While I can't say that Toyota nailed everything, they did get the powertrain right, so long as it earns a reputation for reliability, which we will discuss soon. Its performance is a huge relief though, as replacing the 5.7 liter was a tall task. Low speed response is good too, it's really not laggy. Now pulling up this road, they do a good job of making it not sound exactly like a Tacoma 3.5 liter V6. It's got a little bit more of a burly tone. And with this power plant and the constant changing elevation of this road, you know, it never feels like it's really lugging the engine, and we're just in the normal mode here. This new 10-speed automatic seems very well paired with this power plant, which is something that I'm glad to see after driving the Tacoma with the 6-speed automatic. This might be my favorite powertrain in the class, but it's not my favorite truck over rough roads, especially in the TRD Sport spec. The Toyota Tundra is composed. However, with this TRD Sport package, it does ride pretty rough. This actually does have different suspension. It's not just looks. Over smooth, windy roads, the TRD Sport does show that it's a little bit better handling, which all trucks will come with a new multi-link rear suspension with much thicker cross members on the frame to help with rigidity. It still feels like a truck, but it definitely has heft going down the road. It handles well. There is still body roll. The steering is still pretty slow, but there's actually a good build-up in weight there. It doesn't feel, and this goes for the whole truck when compared to the previous generation, it doesn't feel as vague when you're going around windy roads. You kind of know what's going on with the steering and the suspension. It's still tolerable, and there's really not as much sway or dissonance as I was expecting. It doesn't seem to get out of whack with these harsher roads. And I think if you're getting the TRD Sport, I would probably be buying it in a place where the roads are a little bit better. The TRD Sport rides stiff like an old school truck, but it still feels high quality. No noises outside of the stuff I had in the cab presented themselves. It also has a newfound confidence in the rear end from ditching the leaf springs in the back for coils. Part of this refinement also might be coming from the standard hydraulic cab mounts. As I mentioned earlier, there is a TRD off-road spec, which has historically softened up Toyota trucks. There's also a load leveling rear air suspension available from SR5 through 1794, with adaptive suspension available on the Platinum in 1794. The new capstone trim sees those as standard. I would personally avoid the TRD Sport for the roads I regularly encounter. The Limited is noticeably smoother. Behind the wheel, the Limited truck has a slightly different ambiance, especially with that panoramic sunroof there and the larger touchscreen. And while the steering feels the same compared to the TRD Sport, the suspension is certainly more forgiving. Going over this road with a lot of dips, dives, and potholes, it soaks everything up, but since it's still on the firm side, it doesn't feel like a boat maneuvering a rough marina or something. I would say in the Limited trim, it feels as comfortable as an F-150. It still feels a lot lighter on its feet than the previous generation truck, but if you're looking for a more comfortable truck, I think the Ram has this seat, especially with the air suspension. A couple things that I've noticed after driving the Tundra for a little while. Sport mode seems to liven up the steering more than normal in Eco, but where I noticed the biggest difference is really just how when you put the truck into Eco mode, it refuses to do anything when you press the throttle down from a standstill. Almost to a comical degree. Brake pedal feel here, it's firm, but it's still progressive. You can stop it in a smooth manner. And it's surprisingly quiet. A noticeable improvement over the previous generation in that regard. While I couldn't really notice a difference, if you want the most quiet ride, the Limited trim and up will have an acoustic windshield, with the capstone having all acoustic glass. This is usually a more windy road, but going 65 miles per hour, RPMs 1600, this would be a good truck for the long haul, and I like how my elbows are positioned like in the perfect spot. They're both level. The shifter's a nice rest point for my hand here. And all of these come with adaptive cruise control as standard, and if you get the convenience package on the SR5, you'll have blind spot monitoring, something that comes standard on the upper trims. The Tundra has grown to become more refined, more modern, but it keeps the sturdy feel that was always a pro to the model. Speaking of pros, the TRD Pro with its numerous upgrades like 2.5-inch Fox internal bypass coilovers and rear remote reservoir shocks will give the truck a new ride on the road and off-road. Plus the interior is a bit ridiculous, so I'll try to review that when I can. While less flamboyant, the TRD off-road pack can be applied to several trims and gets you a Bilstein off-road suspension, crawl control, rear locker, and skid plates. While there's no optional four-wheel drive auto mode like many other trucks have, every Tundra will come with Toyota's Auto LSD that can mimic a limited slip differential to help you out in some tricky situations. However, a weird downside is that there aren't any recovery hooks on the Tundra. Supposedly a tow hook option or accessory is on the way, and you can use the hitch if you really have to, but that's less than ideal. They said they did this for aerodynamics, but really? It's not a huge deal for me, especially since a lot of trucks already make you buy an off-road version to get them, but I feel the TRD models should at least get those standard. A few interesting bits about the Tundra: you have giant mirrors, which I guess you would kind of expect with a truck, but what isn't normal is the really huge difference in gas tank size. So if you get the SR or SR5, you'll have a 22-gallon tank, which is respectable. But if you step up further than that, you'll have a 33-gallon tank. Now with this thing getting like 23 or 24 miles per gallon on the highway, you're gonna have a pretty good range. When it comes to reliability, this is a hard one to call. The powertrain has only been in the Lexus LS500 up until this point, to my knowledge. There's limited data on that, but Consumer Reports showed less than ideal reliability ratings for it. It also appears that some owners of the 22 Tundra are reporting wastegate issues with the turbos. This is such a new truck that I can't decipher how widespread this truly is. It could be limited to specific trucks and be cleared by a quick recall, or it could be a big design flaw. Time will tell. This is a sophisticated engine, but Toyota usually addresses its issues. First model year cars often have some problems. If reliability is your top priority, the other trucks aren't stellar either, so the Tundra will probably end up being toward the top of the segment, and its long-term dependability is necessary for this to continue its legacy, so I'm sure Toyota will do what they can to ensure it. I think a few people hate on it because it doesn't offer some of the latest convenience features that some other trucks do, and the tried and true V8 is gone, leading to uncertainty when it comes to reliability, but it still has thoughtful touches, and so long as it can prove itself as trustworthy, it has an excellent powertrain that is efficient, potent, and not annoying. It looks good to me, at least from the back, and the interior is both fresh and durable feeling. Plus you can still get a CrewMax cab and a 6.5-foot bed in most trims. I started off the review with the question of whether this has established Toyota as a leader in the full-size segment. To be honest, I can't say that it has, if what you're looking for is the most advanced truck out there with the smartest features and best ride quality. However, it's now competitive in each category, and it nails a few things that I think truck people will really care about. In order for this to put a serious dent in the sales of other trucks, this would need to tow like a train, stop bullets, and raise your children. It's good, a huge improvement, but not exceptional to the point where it will overcome these really strong brand loyalties. The Toyota is like the middle child, largely ignored, with a surface that begs for the attention it doesn't receive. It lags behind in some ways, but it's still very competent. If I had to choose a new truck today, the 2022 Tundra would be on my short list. If you enjoyed the video, it would mean a lot if you liked, subscribed, and hit the bell. It all helps me with my success in the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Tundra.